In our Inininew language, we use the word Ikiskawasoot. It means carrying life. It means with child. It means pregnant. It's a spiritual time, a time in a woman's life that she is bringing and carrying a child within her being. That's what Ikiskawasoot is.
Children earlier used to be welcomed in our community because that's where children were born. Through midwives, through ceremony, through the practice of guiding them through that pregnancy and through that childbirth.
We believe that a spirit comes that delivers our child. They say the child is going to be born now. And when that spirit is there, when you know, that elder knows when that spirit comes, you go out and put the tobacco down so that a child will enter the world.
The elders that, when the woman is she's gonna give a birth, and they have to come, about 4 of them or 3 of them, and there's other 2 women or 1 woman will sit at your back, and the midwives will be at the front of your body. They tell you what to do. You gotta take that string and help yourself. It's not like here you just push like this, and they have a string in the tente. There's a tente. There's a stick there, and you have to pull that. You have to lay down and pull that, and the baby will go. And the kids were outside and listen to the baby, outside. And as soon as you hear the baby cry, that means that okay.
And so the ceremonies that needed to be happening right after that baby was born would be the cedar bath, and then that bath water would be put back to the earth because the birth of the baby was being put back to the earth. And so it's a process that's happening. And then, there's the birth, the deceive, we would call it. I think it would be the umbilical cord. That was never thrown away. The afterbirth was never thrown away. It was put back to the earth through a ceremony. Because the birth process was that the person that first held the baby and the language that the baby first heard would be the language that child would always have. That was like a part of that child now.
When my grandchildren were born, the first thing I did was I took my drum and I sang the prayer songs from the drum. And I sang to them in my language. They will remember that. It'll be instilled in their bloodline and in their blood memory, and it'll never be forgotten.
It was a joyful time for me, to become a grandmother. The midwife used to come and do what they needed to do.
The one thing, being a traditional person, so my spirituality was a part of my pregnancy the entire time, part of my labor. I used ceremony prior. One of my elder friends came to me on her due date. We had a ceremony and smudged, and that's where she told him, or where he received the message of her name. And so when she was born and he came over, he told me that he had her name, and her name is Freedom. And he wrote a little poem and gave some teachings to me to share with her. And And so why I tell that story is because after knowing I wanted to keep my placenta and keep the cord and, you know, go with my elder friend to go make those offerings out by mile 20. And like that was a non-issue. There was no side looks, no surprises, just caring for my placenta and making sure that it was wrapped in cloth and taken care of. And that was, again, something that was so comforting and so important when something is so important to the mom. Like, that was really important to me, and I felt zero judgment and just felt completely supported. And I know that's not what everyone experiences when they're in the hospital.
It was a good experience, but also the ceremony that was done for her placenta, it was very touching for me, because that placenta, I knew, fed that baby and took care of my daughter as well. That placenta was where it was a sacred thing that she was delivering also out to this world. And the umbilical cord also attached her to the Creator. So when that umbilical cord was cut, I felt an emotion, because she was no longer part of that spirit world. She was down now in the physical world with us. And when they tied her umbilical cord, I felt something that was sacred, that she was no longer attached to that spirit world, but that placenta still represented where she came from. So we took that placenta and we did ceremony with it, and we wrapped it up in a white cloth, and she took it home. When we buried that placenta, that child would always know where he came from. And so we tied a cloth around the tree, and that tree was his. Those are really important things for me, because now we have this child that we have done these ceremonies for. Those are all the ceremonies of that child coming into the world. They're such beautiful ceremonies. We have good ways, we have sacred ways of bringing life into the world. And I hope that we can continue to practice and raise them up again. And we'll raise our children up again.